This is Zombiemoco, and I'm doing my first actual movie review. I'm a little nervous since this is my first one, so you might see me glancing at my notes on occasion. I'm reviewing Zombie, or Zombie2, or any other plethora of names that it has. This movie can be comical, if you choose to take it that way. If you do, I would suggest the dubbing. The dubbing's pretty bad.
That must be it, Bill. Okay, we'll take a look at her.
Though, if you want to take it serious, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful zombie movie if you take it seriously. I mean, there's still some kind of goofy shit, but you can really get over it and just be immersed in the world that's created with this zombie movie if you choose to. To get a more serious take on the zombie movie, I do recommend the subtitles with the Italian. But really, either way is good. But yeah, if you're making fun of it, dubbing for sure. It starts out, I don't want to say slow. It's very obvious that it's a setup just to get them somewhere. They're just going to get her dad, and it's really just setting it up to go there. It starts to get a bit more interesting. I would say the beginning of this interestingness of the movie starts with a bare-breasted scuba dive. Apparently, that's how they do it, those Italian women.
Let's stop for a while. I want to take some shots. How about it?
Kudos to this woman, that's brave. I mean, I think I would feel vulnerable enough diving into the ocean in scuba gear, but she's gonna do it in like this little loincloth bikini bottom thing and no top on. Though, with this movie, if you see a chick that's showing her boobies, that's when you really know that zombie stuff's gonna happen. Kind of builds up the suspense. This movie is really excellent with the suspense building, actually. So she jumps in, she has no top on, there's a shark, it's a little scary, and then one of the most infamous scenes at this point in this movie takes place where a zombie fights a shark. This is one of the main scenes that I remembered from watching it when I was 15. There were two, this is one. This movie, or this zombie in the water really manages to move surprisingly fast. I mean, these are basically slow-moving zombies, but somehow in the water, instead of slowing down the way we do, this zombie speeds up a bit, and he's kind of like doing this fight thing, and backing up and being strategic with the shark. I mean, I'm sure it's because the dude in there was like with his, I guess he was like a trainer, a shark trainer. From the very brief research that I did. So I'm sure he's still being very careful of this, I guess, sedated shark. But it manages to look a little, very cool, but still a little funny compared to the slower moving zombies that you see throughout the rest of the film. And so there's this zombie shark battle, and then it goes back to the boat, and there's this really awful cut. I mean, again, this movie is mostly beautiful, but this is like such a sloppy, like, oh, and then there's this, and then it moves over to like this other part. Stuff happens, and my other favorite part comes along, the other scene that I really remember the most. And of course it begins with a naked woman in a shower. And you see her like washing her hair, and then and you already know, like, nothing, it's all mundane. Nothing has even happened yet. It's just a naked woman, and the suspense is already building. And then there's the zombie hand on the window. And it only builds up even more from there. The zombie manages to reach through this door that she's, like, shoving up against, and it grabs her head, and there's, like, this splinter of wood that is splintered out from the door. And I swear, like, my memories of this from when I was 15, I thought this scene lasted, like, 5 minutes or something. Like, it just seems excruciatingly long that the zombie is pulling her eye, not, like, just her head, like, her eyeball towards this pointed out, like, shard of the door. And it's only like half a minute, but it's still like half a minute. That's a really long time to be like very, very slowly pulling a woman's eyeball towards this shard of wood. So you slowly watch it go into her eye, and I'm kind of like about eye stuff anyway. And that's the second scene that really stuck out the most. Let's see. There's tons of great music. Like, I love the main theme. There's also, like, some drumming that happens. They even, like, acknowledge it in the film. Like, for the longest time, I'm like, oh, there's drumming, but it's just their way of, like, showing, like, the tribalness of, like, this voodoo stuff, because the zombies are being brought back to fight voodoo. But no, like, the characters, they actually acknowledge this. So I guess the drumming's just happening on the island as part of this voodoo thing that's going on. It's suggested that the doctor, like earlier on in the film, when he's having a conversation with his wife,
Demented, cruel, evil.
it's suggested that the doctor was actually responsible for all of this with his experiments. But then every other thing is just talk about voodoo. So you don't exactly get the straight of it. I don't know. I like to think that it was kind of voodoo. I feel like it's kind of more traditional. The zombies in this film, I'm gonna go a bit more into them since I do like to focus on like the actual zombies in my reviews. So they're slow moving. They have different rising times, which is a little weird. And again, that's more suggestive to me of like the voodoo over like the doctor doing crazy experimentation. Because like ancient corpses are rising from the ground, and it's not like the doctor really touched any of those, and it's not really mentioned that he released any like weird gases or anything like that. So it feels like voodoo would probably be more responsible for that. So different rising times, and in this case, very timely. Like the zombies, maybe they smelled fresh blood or something, but like the zombies are just kind of there for who knows how long while the voodoo stuff is happening and the dead are rising, and then like the main characters are hanging out in this graveyard, and the dead just kind of like that's their cue, and of course, makeout scene, and then why are they making out when they should be escaping? But they're making out, and a zombie reaches up and like grabs this woman's hair, and she's like screaming, and then it shows the famous zombie from the cover of the DVD from the posters, and he rises up, and this woman, Susan, just kind of like watches him, and like he goes for her, and she just kind of like stands there, and she's obviously like frightened, but she's still like, these are really slow moving zombies, and she's like right next to it, and she sees it rising, and she sees it coming to her, and I mean there's really no excuse for that. She'd already seen what was going on, like she'd already seen zombies killing things, like, but she's like, ah, and it kills her, and it rips out her throat, and, I mean, it just, no reason to stay standing there, and of course the dudes take action. I guess maybe it's a sign of the times. I know it was like 1979 or whatever, but like, still, pretty much any woman you see in this, she's basically like, standing there. She might be screaming, but she's mostly just scared, and she's standing there, and she's waiting for the zombie to kill her, and it's gonna kill her unless a dude comes along, and he's like, oh, wait a moment, and, like, takes it out. At this point, in the movie, we know that zombies can die from a headshot. They'll be perma-killed by a headshot. The doctor, Dr. Menard, uses this, to kill all of those people that he knows are going to come back as zombies.
Headshot. Dominating. Killing spree. Multi-kill.
They head off to the church, and when they get there, there are some shots at that point of the zombies closing in on the church that are just so picturesque. Like, they're so beautifully epitomizing what a zombie flick is. They're just, the zombies are slowly shambling towards the church. Um, like, you could take a picture of any one of those, like, and just frame it. Like, they were just perfect. And the atmosphere at this point is very great. It's getting a lot darker. And literally too, the sun setting. So maybe that has something to do with it. But it was lighter earlier on, and now suddenly it's getting darker and darker progressively. In mood, as well as just straight the light going away. So they go in, they're talking to the doctor, and they're kind of boarding everything up. And the doctor, who's been like killing everybody with headshots, all the zombies at this point, to try to keep everything safe, does not find this information pertinent and does not share it with the rest of the group that a headshot is the way to kill them. Nor does his assistant. And then the doctor gets taken out.
Humiliation.
And then there's all these patients there, and nobody thinks to mention that, oh, we should probably shoot these zombies in the head because they're gonna come back and eat us. They're just kind of like barricading stuff up. Like, you'd think at least like the nurse's assistant would have mentioned this, but she totally doesn't. And so the zombies start like rising, and they start biting people. And once again, the doctor's assistant, just kind of stands there and watches it happen, and then like a dude jumps in and like saves her. And then like there's a part where Anne, the main chick lady, she sees like this zombie coming at her, and she doesn't do anything. Actually, no, she does something. She actually like bares her throat to it, so that's cool. That's what you want to do to a zombie. And so they start setting stuff on fire. Turns out these zombies can be destroyed by fire, but aren't frightened of fire the way Romero zombies would be. And they run outside, and Brian runs into Susan, his love, who was killed earlier. He stands there in shock, which I find this to be a bit more understandable. He stands there for a really long time, mind you, but, I mean, you know, kind of giving him leeway, with, you know, him being in love with her and her coming back. But then, like, he acts really surprised when she bites him. And then I didn't quite understand. I feel like he should have known that was coming. Well, they get to the boat. They're going off. Of course, Brian dies from the bite. And Anne and Peter are listening to the radio. And it turns out that zombies have taken over New York. Definitely a beautiful ending to this beautiful and atmospheric classic zombie flick.
The situation here in New York City since the discovery of the first zombie is getting worse by the hour. There's chaos in the streets. The National Guard cannot control the situation. In every borough of the city, from Brooklyn to Manhattan, from Harlem to Queens, the zombies are taking over.